You're listening to the Sex, Drugs, and Jesus podcast, where we discuss whatever the fuck we want to. And yes, we can put sex and drugs and Jesus all in the same bed and still be all right at the end of the day. My name is DeVannon, and I'll be interviewing guests from every corner of this world as we dig into topics that are too risque for the morning show, as we strive to help you understand what's really going on in your life. There is nothing off the table, and we've got a lot to talk about, so let's dive right into this episode. Hello, all you delicious, juicy truffles out there. My name is DeVannon, and I'd like to welcome you back to the Sex, Drugs, and Jesus podcast, the Jesus Christ of Nazareth podcast. And I believe in me some God, Jesus, and the Holy Ghost. Not to knock your universe or whatever it is that you believe in. That's what I stand for, because you gotta stand for something or you'll fall for any fucking thing, as the saying goes. I have my hypnotherapist here with me today. You all know this face, you know this voice. She's been a hypnotherapist for well over 20 fucking years. She was one of my instructors at the Hypnosis Motivation Institute out of Tarzana, aka Los Angeles, California. Her website is ElainePerliss.com. She's on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. Elaine, how are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on your show today. I love this.
Absolutely. And y'all, today we are continuing our talk into this book right here. The Object of My Affection is in My Reflection by Rokelle Lerner. This is the anti-narcissist book as far as I'm fucking concerned, because there's nothing in here but light, enlightenment, and acknowledgement. And one of the things that helped me heal the most from dealing with the narcissist that was once a part of my life, who is no more, was knowledge.
Right.
About this book from Elaine. And so that's why we're going through it.
I love it. I love it. You're right. Knowledge is so powerful, because I'm just going to jump right in. A narcissist, they don't want you to know. They don't want you to have any kind of power or control, So, yeah.
Period. The chapter 1 is what we're going to cover today. The title of it is Entitlement, Rage, and Contempt, the Plight of Narcissists and Their Victims. Before we get into that, I'm going to read Psalm 62 from the King James Version of the Bible. Why Psalm 62, you might ask? Because for whatever reason, this particular psalm gave me a lot of mental peace. When I left the narcissist and I was racking and reeling in my brain, this psalm calmed me. It speaks about karma. It speaks about leaning on God and making them your priority and not the narcissist. The narcissist wants to be God in your life. Okay. Only they're not qualified to sit on the throne. Truly my soul waiteth upon God. From him cometh my salvation. He only is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense. I shall not be greatly moved. How long will you imagine mischief against a man? You shall be slain, all of you. As a bowing wall shall you be, and as a tottering fence. They only consult to cast him down from his excellency. They delight in lies. They bless with their mouth, but they curse inwardly. My soul, wait thou only upon God, for my expectation is from him. He only is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense. I shall not be moved. In God is my salvation and my glory, the rock of my strength, and my refuge is in God. Trust in him at all times, ye people. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us. Surely men of low degree are vanity, and men of high degree are a lie. To be laid in the balance, they are altogether lighter than vanity. Trust not in oppression, and become not vain in robbery. If riches increase, set not your heart upon them. God had spoken once, and twice have I heard this, that power belongeth unto God. Also unto thee, O Lord, belongeth mercy, for thou renderest to every man according to his work. What do you think about that?
Wow. Holy cow. I guess they had narcissists back then.
Hell yeah, they did. Fuck yeah, they did.
Holy cow. Whenever you have a society, you've got people that are trying to, outgun each other, outpower each other, find ways to manipulate themselves so that they're the king of the hill or the queen of the hill. And yeah, I think that this type of a personality is as old as time itself. I think that it's, oh, wow. That was a very poignant passage to read to get this started. Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
y'all
Yeah.
go back through it when you have time and see if you can see what speaks to you. Men of low degree, those are your covert narcissists. Men of high degree, those are your overt narcissists. But the Lord said all of them are lighter than vanity. So,
Right. Yes. Yes. Vanity could be another word would be ego, you know?
mhm,
And it's interesting because when you think about a narcissist, they have sky high egos, you know, and they can't imagine a vulnerability. They're fun, they're friendly, they're outgoing, whatever it is, but they're not going to let you know that there's any kind of a crack in their veneer, whatever that is. And they are pretty much all vanity. They are pretty much all ego. There's not a lot of there, behind the walls that they build to help to protect themselves. You're
because it's so damn true, Elaine. Like the insanity of those bullshit ass people, as I have come to understand it more, is so far out of the realm of anything that remotely resembles reality that it becomes laughable. There's no other emotion to do it. Not shock, not awe. It's just you just don't want to laugh. That's all you can
You're
do.
right. You're right. When you see it for what it is, I mean, it on one hand, it's kind of a little bit sad and you've got some empathy, sympathy for them. But on the other hand, when you watch them doing their manipulation things, you see them over in a corner trying to light a fire or whatever. It doesn't work. But, it's so interesting that you said that, there's no reality. The only reality is their reality. There is no room for any other reality because and it's funny because it's a very strong defense mechanism that they have because if they can create this story, this reality, they will do anything and everything to protect it because there's nothing underneath. And if they accept somebody else's point of view or they accept that they are fallible, then their whole world crumbles. It's almost like a house of cards, you know?
Let me say a little prayer for us right now, just real quick, because because we got, I'm gonna have a lot of enemies who don't want this information coming out. Well, guess what, bitches, is coming out anyway. Father, in the name of Jesus, protect Elaine and I and everybody working behind the scenes on this production. Keep us shielded and safe from everybody with evil wishes, any kind of black magic, dark magic, any kind of evil, black-hearted nonsense being worked against you. Because ultimately, this podcast and this conversation is to shed light. Anybody who doesn't want this conversation to proceed is of the devil. Rebuke them and set them down in their place in Jesus' name.
It's beautiful. Yeah. And, people who have higher levels of narcissistic traits, they could be, there's like if there's 100 narcissistic traits and they have 60 of them or 70 of them, and metaphorically, it's because they needed it to protect themselves. It's because they wanted to appear bigger than they are, bigger than they feel about themselves. There's usually a ton of shame behind someone who has narcissistic tendencies, going all the way up to narcissistic personality disorder, which, that's something that a licensed mental health professional can diagnose and address and work with. But this is not coming from a narcissist's traits are not coming from a position of strength. And they don't want you to know that. But it is coming from a position of fear, feeling less than. They don't feel like they're as good as other people, but they want to present. They'll be happy. They'll be, easygoing, not really easygoing, but they can be the life of the party. But it's You've heard the term the tears of a clown. And I actually have I think I've mentioned this before. I was raised by a narcissist and I escaped, but I came after a lot of work and a lot of personal. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I specialize in this area. After a lot of soul searching and learning and coming to terms with it, I bless my mother. She was such a great teacher. She taught me what to do and what not to do, more importantly, what not to do. And I understood, through visioning and through therapy and through prayers and all of the different things, imagery and all of those things. I recognized and realized that she was in so much pain, you know? And you'd never know it, you'd never see it because there was this veneer around her. And when we are at the negative effect, when we become victimized by someone who's a narcissist, sometimes it takes years. It can take years to figure it out because you are so busy being overwhelmed by and impressed by and drawn to, these people that what happens is you don't even realize that, they're putting it out there, but they're pulling it back and they're holding on to you and they're protecting you. And it's little ways, they will make you feel bad. They will try to make you feel guilty. They will tell you that you're wrong. I mean, there's 100 different ways. And we've got a few in this book that I'd like to talk about. But when you find out, first of all, you're hurt. First of all, you feel betrayed. You feel that you haven't had, you feel like you've been taken advantage of. You feel almost like dirty, because somebody has gotten under your skin. And then you go through, there's the stages of loss. You go through, and whenever you detach from someone who's toxic personality, and today, we're talking about narcissistic personalities, you feel the loss. There's guilt, there's anger, there's resentment. You want to go over and slash their tires, cancel, but you don't want to feel like the victim. You want to have your personality back. And once you go through these stages and the cycle of grief or the stages of loss, whatever you call it, once you go through that, what happens is you learn something for every single step. I am blown away that she was able to exist on the planet for as long as she did with as many painful things that she had. And so I'm grateful for her. And that's the place when we work with and when we connect with people who are narcissists, when we get them out from under our skin, we're just like, whatever, we just want to go sage the house or something, and after we gain the learnings and after we gain the insights, they're not this big bang monster. They're a very sorry, sad person that we no longer are under the control of. And that is so cool. So that's kind of my soapbox speech about that.
Hey, there is absolutely nothing wrong with getting soapy boxy with it. And I agree with every fucking thing you said. I'm just gonna read this first paragraph. There was something I was gonna say that was quite like, I'm just gonna read this. I'm just gonna read this. So this is chapter 1. It says, so when you're in relationship with a narcissist, you relinquish your identity and your soul to them. Their seduction is similar to a razor sharp stiletto being waved in your face. It's so mesmerizing you won't know you're bleeding to death until it's too late. But it's not your blood that a narcissist wants, it's your emotional energy and your individuality. I've heard the term soul rapist, energy vampire.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about that emotional energy and why they want your individuality?
Now, this paragraph pretty much says it all. It is an incredible paragraph. And then, of course, this book goes on to expand and and build on this thing. A narcissist typically doesn't have a true sense of self. And that seems weird because they've got this ginormous ego, but they're not. I always liken it to the Wizard of Oz. If you've ever seen the Wizard of Oz, there's that big Oz on the screen, and there's this ginormous force that's scary and overpowering, and oh my gosh, he's so powerful. But then it's this little man behind the screen, behind the curtain. And that's basically what it is. It's a little person with a great big ego, a great big whatever it is that they have. Their personality is so big. And so what happens is they find other people, victims, they find people that are susceptible to their need. They don't have the ability to take responsibility. They, when the going gets tough, they get going. You know, they will spend their days talking the talk, but not walking the walk. And so they look for people that are susceptible or, suggestible to their magnetic, like all that sticky paper that they got on them. And so what ends up happening is they will little by little, slowly but surely, take away the part that the unknowing person is. They take away the part that's their individuality. Because little by little, a narcissist will convince that person that that person isn't good enough. That person isn't strong enough. That person isn't X, whatever it is, enough. And so what ends up happening is like an energy vampire. They want your emotional energy because they don't have it. They want your individuality because they can't find their own. And I know that sounds really weird, but they really don't have a sense of self. And so they will find someone and they will use every tool in the book to find a way to control the person. And it happens very slowly. It happens step by step, day by day. You start doubting yourself. Oh, well, maybe it was me. Oh, well, maybe I did misread that situation. Oh, well, maybe he's right or she's right, whatever it is, But the truth is, and the fact of the matter is, they don't care about you. They don't care about powering and overpowering you. You are a means to an end. And I know that sounds really cold, but they don't have any love for themselves. How in the world can they have love for somebody else? And they're all about themselves. Me, and another helping of me. They don't deal with someone else. They don't have the ability to show remorse or regret, because if they did, it goes back to, if I say I've done something wrong in my mind, if I'm a narcissist, I am wrong. It's not that I can make a mistake and make amends, because that doesn't exist in their vocabulary. They're very shallow. They don't have that depth and that richness of emotions. So they want yours. I want what you have, that whole thing. And they really can't relate to others because they're not relating to themselves. Everything is about them. There's no give and take in that relationship. And they have this overwhelming need for approval, for affection, for adulation. They want, because they don't have it in themselves. They can't say, oh, look, I'm great. I mean, they say it, but it's very shallow. It's not meaningful because they don't really believe it inside. So they constantly need people to feed that ego, feed that machine. And so when you say that a narcissist wants your emotional energy and your individuality, absolutely. They want it for themselves. They don't know how to find it within themselves. So they want to take it from you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Those fucking. There's a song by this band called Sullivan King called "Someone Else." It's like a rock song, and I think this guy wrote this about a narcissist. I guess it was the guy who wrote it. My favorite, I guess you could say favorite, or I guess most impactful line from well, there's two of them. One line says, "The words that leave your lips never mean how they sound." And then the other one, he says, "The games that you play are just sickening." It's like you could have just, and he says, like, you could have just set me free. You didn't have to do this.
Right.
Mike, I think he's talking about a narcissist. He was in a
I'm sure he was. I am sure he was. You know, I'm realizing the horrible things you did to me. It's sickening.
It is
You
sick.
know, it's sickening.
But at
And
least they able to make
yeah,
a million off of it. Shit. But
wow. You know, and I guess I wanna mention and stress that if you're a kind person, a compassionate person, even a healthy, caring, sharing person, someone who has a good soul and wants to do well by others, you're often their prey because they get that you're going to give someone the benefit of the doubt. And one of the things that I hear in my practice all the time, how could I have fallen for this? And the fact of the matter is, you were targeted, not you personally, but the person was targeted because they were susceptible to what are now lies, words that leave your lips, but are not true. And they're susceptible to it. And so people come in and they feel so guilty and they feel such like, how could I be so dumb or so stupid? Cancel, and what ends up happening is once they understand what it is and they can pull themselves out of the quicksand or the tar pit that is their energy, they see it more clearly. They see it as, okay, I was victimized, you know, somebody, somebody victimized me. And so there's no shame in that. There's only, I'm sorry, go ahead. Okay. There's no shame in being taken advantage of someone who is out to take advantage of you. There's no shame in that. The good thing is you don't have those tools to recognize it because you aren't one. There's only honor and courage to take the next step. Once you recognize that you don't feel right about yourself, you know? So I want your listeners and your viewers to know that you have probably been taken advantage of by a narcissist at some point in your life. And, you kind of felt like, oh my gosh, I was used, I was taken advantage of, someone who has narcissistic tendencies. And there's no shame in that, you know?
like like Madonna said in the song Power of Goodbye, pain is a warning that something's wrong. And so it's real relationship should be peace, happiness, joy. There shouldn't be arguing. I don't give a damn what anyone says. Arguing does not have to be a necessary part of a relationship.
Right.
Disagreements are one thing.
Yes.
Shouting and yelling and all of that toxicity is bullshit and it is not necessary.
Um,
I forgot to tell you this before we got online. Apart from dismissing the wicked one at the beginning of the year, I've also noticed since I last talked to you, probably fired 5 friends who are now exes. People have no sexual history at all, just like friends, because they either said something adverse to me, something disrespectful, and now I view everything as energy, which is what it is. That anything somebody's choosing to say or do is a choice. If
right.
something's disrespectful is in their toolbox,
Mhm,
forceful words, disrespectful words, threats of violence, anything at all,
mhm.
bitch, bye. Fired instantly, no questions asked. There's billions of people in this world. I am no longer negotiating with any sort of disrespect on any damn level.
That is fantastic. That's fantastic. Once someone has extracted themselves or extricated themselves from a toxic situation, what usually happens is they clean house. And that's so cool because you don't realize or recognize, right? Right? You don't recognize that there have been toxic people in your life. And that's often, and I know that you have experienced this, all of a sudden, wait, I'm out here all by myself. All these people who I thought were my friends were actually frenemies, you know? So, yeah.
No more. But yeah, I didn't realize that that was a normal thing. But yes, bitch, I've been cleaning house, take inventory. And the only people who have been allowed to remain are people who I've never had an argument with. And there's people I've known for years and years that we've never had an argument. People who are not attached to anybody who I view as toxic or anybody, who I feel like may have had something to do with the grooming of somebody who's toxic and let that person go unchecked. So I don't give a damn if they agree with it or not. I'm firing motherfuckers left and right, and I don't give a damn.
Right. And you bring up a really good point. If you have to argue and yell and have these all out whatevers, you also want to look at your own self. What is it that's going on with me that compels me to fight with someone? What am I angry about myself? And so, yes, you're right. Healthy relationships, yes, you can have disagreements, but there's respect there, right?
There's choice.
Yeah.
And so an argument used to make me feel terrible and just cruddy when it was over. The wicked one, it used to make him feel like alive. It like would enliven him because he was siphoning energy out of me through the arguing.
Exactly. Exactly. He was feeding that demon. It was like, the invasion of the body snatchers, feed me. And so when he got you to admit that you were wrong, or he got you to, whatever, he was able to rile you up and put you in a defensive position. He was winning because he was pulling that energy, was siphoning, like you said, siphoning that energy out of you.
Well, it's all cut off from his ass now. He'll never have a fucking drop again. He
That's right.
You'll get it from whoever the fuck else.
Next victim.
So
Right.
this paragraph here, I wanted to read, and then this will be the last paragraph that I'm going to read because there's bullet points you wanted to talk about. So this says narcissists are actors playing a part. They are expert liars, and even worse, they believe their own lies.
That's
Prac
right.
Practiced and amen on a amen on a Sunday morning. Pra- Practiced in dishonesty. And I'm going to come back to that part. But practiced in dishonesty, they can't tell the difference between their own version of the truth and a falsehood. Narcissists lie to themselves first, and then systematically and often deliberately torture others with their lies. That's fucked up. They may take the past and rearrange it to make themselves look good. They rarely, if ever, admit fault, and they never say they're sorry.
Ever. Right. That's the thing. They believe what they say is true. And they are, you can, and then you put that together with they can never be wrong. Well, you've got a powder keg, you know, there's, the sky is green. By the way, the sky is green. I'm convinced the sky is green. And I'm going to keep telling you the sky is green until you admit it. What?
If you don't admit it, then they throw a tantrum.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
like, literally, these grown male narcissists, and not just the wicked one whom I banished, but they physically throw their arms up and down, or they stick them down by their side, and they do the whole stumping foot pout, kind of do shit like this. I used to watch these males who used to be in my life do this, and it wasn't until I researched this that this shit clicked. I'm like,
Right.
what in the actual fuck?
Exactly. Now you look at it and you say, oh, that was a temper tantrum. Oh, that was somebody acting like a 2-year-old. That's about their level of development. You know, m- Emotionally and the stages of development, there's somewhere between 2 and 5. It's-
All right. It's just so sad. So they got working dicks, but dysfunctional emotions.
Exactly. That's right.
We need more from y'all than a good lay, if you please. Because that is not the definition of a man. Y'all need to
Mhm.
come with something more than a hard dick, because those are everywhere. That adds no value. You're like literally nothing if that's all you have.
That's right. That's right. Wow. So we're just about out of time.
Yeah. So what bullet point did you wanted to touch
Well,
on?
I did. I just stuck them in there.
Okay.
Talking about them, I went through in this book, they have a little bullet point list that I love that talks about some of the characteristics, indifference to the need or concerns of others strongly, self-focused, self-absorbed. They don't have remorse. They're emotionally shallow. They cannot relate to others in a meaningful way because there's no meaning in here. If it doesn't fit their model, then it doesn't exist. They have overpowering needs for admiration and attention. They are not capable of giving it to themselves in a meaningful way where they actually believe it and own it. They see themselves as unique and special. That is a facade. They are grandiose and arrogant, like you were talking about. The wicked one throws a tantrum. You throw a tantrum when you don't get your way. You're literally doing what a 2-year-old would do. They can be contemptuous and haughty, and they believe that they can only be understood by other special or high status people or institutions. Basically, that's code for people that agree with them. And they have extreme jealousy of others and believe others that are jealous of them. And it's really interesting because, you'll look, unfortunately, our public figures, there are a lot of them that are very much a demonstration. You can look in the dictionary and see some of their faces. This is a narcissist. This is a malignant narcissist or whatever. And they are almost a caricature of what you see on, in the definitions. So it's amazing. It's just amazing. So,
Right. So then thank you for that breakdown. So then the last thing I'll say, like I was referencing it, it said practice in dishonesty. Those of you who are narcissists and you know who you are just, you've, as the saying goes in spiritual circles, energy goes where attention flows, and then vice versa, however you want to say it. You've grown in the ways of lies, manipulation, deception, because that is what you wanted to practice. Had you practiced spirituality, getting close to God, honesty, then you would have grown in that. But you let your fear and your insecurities corral you down a very dark path that is only going to lead you to destruction.
well said.
You can change if you want to. But that means you're going to have to stop doing what you've been doing, detach from people, and stop sucking energy off of them, which means you're going to have to sit by yourself for a significant length of time to recondition your mind. You're going to have to do new education. That means you're going to have to stop your creature comforts and delay your pleasure for a while. And if you can't do that, then you will fall and you will be greatly destroyed.
Those are wise words. I completely agree with you. And it's right. You're right. It's going to take work.
But they cannot work to get free of it if they're still doing it. So that means like your sex addicts who like narcissism and sex addiction seems to go like hand in hand, because most narcissists cheat. Not just the one that I was with, but like across the board, because their behavior is predictable. You
Right.
keep sleeping with people and setting up these false relationships. Because some of them stop being a hoe, but then they go find like a fake boyfriend or girlfriend. I'm like, it's not real because you're not healed from what you've done. So they have to stop all of that. No relationships, no sex, stop. Focus on healthy relationships, and then you can get healed. But if you won't stop that, you just playing with people, and you're gonna have more bad karma.
That's right. Wow. I'm impressed. You're right. You're very well read in this subject. And you have definitely done a lot of work, and I'm very impressed. So, and it's not easy, right? You'll be the first to say, I'll be the first to say, it's not easy. You can't keep drinking and say, I'm going to stop drinking. It doesn't work that way. You can't eat chocolate and say, I'm going to stop eating chocolate. It doesn't work that way.
It does not work that way.
You gotta have a clean break. So I am so grateful that you took the time with me today, or I got to take the time with you today. And I'm grateful for this opportunity. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Elaine. Again, y'all heard her name is Elaine Perliss. ElainePerliss.com. All her information will go in the show notes as it always does, and we will see you for chapter 2.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for taking time to listen to the Sex, Drugs, and Jesus podcast. It really means everything to me. Look, if you love the show, you can find more information and resources at sexdrugsandjesus.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Feel free to reach out to me directly at DeVannon@sexdrugsandjesus.com and on Twitter and Facebook as well. My name is DeVannon. It's been wonderful being your host today. And just remember that everything is going to be all right.